Hey guys, fall's almost here and so is my response video to trans issues aren't trivial. Take a look.
Now the last video I did was got quite the response. Thank you. That is definitely my most watched video that I have had so far. Thank you for liking and sharing. So far I haven't gotten any feedback that would suggest that I had helped anyone, but you know, a lot of times complaints are louder than compliments. So I'm just going to keep that in mind and keep praying for positive responses. I did get some negative feedback, but that's okay because, you know, any feedback is good, I think, to a point, just to let you know, what you can improve upon, how you can be more effective and all that kind of stuff. I always want to be doing that, growing and getting better. I would like to though address a couple of the negative responses that I got. Now, some mentioned that my experience doesn't work for everyone. Well, now, of course not. I'm not every person, obviously, nor are my experiences, everyone's experience. And I share my story and how I came to believe anytime that I can. Because like I said, I want to help people be free. Now maybe some of you have been around Christians who don't seem very good. And they don't seem like what they're sharing is very good either. I can empathize with you on that. I have also been around Christians that I don't like very much, quite frankly. So, some of them are rude or condescending, judgmental, and you didn't feel understood or heard. Okay, by those people, as I have not, and certainly you did not feel loved or accepted. And I want to apologize to you on their behalf, because Jesus, no matter how poorly sometimes, sadly, that we represent him, sometimes poorly. I've even represented him poorly, I'm sorry to say. Not my goal, but it happens. But he is really good. So I want to share a little bit more today on these trans issues and kind of respond to some of the comments that I got when they start doing things, altering kids. Not surgery. They don't, the youngest, and I wasn't as clear on the last video about that, so let me be clear now. The lowest age that I saw for any kind of life-altering surgery on the body was 15. Now, as I made clear in some of my responses to comments, that is still way too young to be making a decision like that.
I don't understand parents who won't let their 9-year-old walk to the corner without a helmet, an EpiPen, and a GPS tracker. And God forbid their lips touch dairy. But hormone blockers?
But every one of the youth that I have read about who have struggled and who have said, wow, bad decision. I can't believe I did this. I no longer have breasts now. For the rest of my life. I no longer have a penis. I was actually reading a guy that was talking about that. Immediately he thought, what have I done? Now, I don't know exactly when all these surgeries are done, but I know the mastectomy can be done at 15. That is a thing I've read more than once. All right. Now, one of the things that I wanted to respond to that was made to me is that being a tomboy is not the same as being confused about your gender. And they said that I did not understand because, and I quote them, the desire to appropriate another gender for perceived social benefits is incompatible with the diagnosis of gender dysphoria. I did express that part of my reticence to become a woman was social problems, like I'm not being paid as much as a man, or not being free to take my shirt off in public. But I want to make sure that you understand, who are watching this, that there was a much deeper internal grappling going on than just a social construct, all right, that I didn't want to adapt to. I really did feel like I was in the wrong body. I wanted to be male. I fantasized about it quite a lot. All right, so, again, I'm not in everyone's head. I can't speak for everyone. I can't tell you that I know exactly how everyone feels and what motivates everyone, right? I mean, we cannot get inside of each other's heads. But I will include a quote from Keira Bell. This is a young lady from the UK speaking out about her transitioning regret. She said, by the time I got to Tavistock, which was a center that was helping her go through this, I was adamant that I needed to transition. It was the kind of brash assertion that's typical of teenagers. What was really going on was that I was a girl, insecure in my body, who had experienced parental abandonment, felt alienated from my peers, suffered from anxiety and depression, and struggled with my sexual orientation. Okay, so I really relate to this, well, I related, I should say, to this girl's insecurity and what she was struggling with. And I'm going to include links to this article in the description section so that you can read the whole thing if you so desire. Now, you may think, and you may surmise from your own experience, that she didn't really have gender dysphoria either, okay? But here's the thing. She was diagnosed with it by capable doctors. And I know, I would bet good money that I would have been also, had I been diagnosed, if I had been, say, 12 in 2022, or even a couple of years ago. So, there are tomboys. There are girls that are tomboys. I was friends with some of them. I knew some of them that were not like me, though. They did not express the desire to be another sex always, just because they, I don't know, didn't like wearing dresses or whatever, and they played with boys more, or they climbed trees more, stuff like that. When it was time to enjoy womanhood, they did. They might prefer jeans, even today, to a dress, okay, to relaxing, but they can still enjoy being a woman or a girl. That was not me for far too long. On my last video, I spent mostly the whole time describing how I got into this, how I got into, what my background was, why I felt like maybe I had come to believing that I was the wrong sex, that I wanted to be a boy, and what was holding me back. And I did share that I was anorexic. When I got into treatment, I had never explored this at all. I thought that I was not developing, okay, as into a woman. I was not. I managed to, almost in a Peter Pan-like state, being anorexic, to pause my own cycle of development, which is interesting because the puberty blockers will do that. But I've even heard doctors describe it that way. I actually paused it myself by not eating. So even though I wasn't conscious of that, I wasn't trying to not eat so that I would not develop. That's exactly what happened for the most part. I did not have a period. I did not really develop breasts. I really looked like a 12-year-old boy, even by the time I was 18. I still look like a 12-year-old boy. All right, but I want to share what Jesus did to bring me out of that. Because in the hospital, I found out that basically at least half of my anorexia problem was motivated by this fear of being a woman and all that went with that. What I found as I grew as a Christian was that it's like being married to God, in a sense. And you might say, what in the world is that? What are you talking about, right? Nobody can be married to God. What are you a goddess or something? No, not talking about that kind of thing. I would encourage you, even right now, to, if you have a Bible anywhere around, look up Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, it's called in some versions. It's in the Bible. It's not a long book, and it's all about the love story of King Solomon and his beloved bride. Now, it's funny because it's pretty explicit about sex, and embarrasses a lot of people because they don't know that stuff like that is in the Bible. See, this is why you've got to read it. You've got to read it for yourself. But I love that God included that in His Word, because He created sex, and God is not hesitant to talk about it. God is really cool, actually. He's very open about discussing reality. God uses in the Bible the analogy of being married to those who belong to Him. So if you become a part of His family, you are in essence a part of His bride, then you're His beloved, like King Solomon talks to his beloved, and the Bible talks about us being like that to God, like God is talking to us like a lover. Now, some of you might say that is just too far, you're crazy, Kathleen, I don't know about all that, but I'm not kidding, it's really there. That connection is really made. And so, anyway, one night while I was praying or talking to God, God showed me in a vision how I looked to Him after He washed me. Because even though I used to be living for myself and dirty with junk from the world, I was washed with the blood of Jesus. Now, some of you are going to say, that's disgusting. Nobody washes with blood. What are you talking about? Okay, well, here's the thing. Jesus was a sacrifice for our wrongdoing, like the Jews had been doing for years, hundreds of years, with animals. God had directed them to make animal sacrifices. And I have other videos about this if you want to look back.
Is there really a need for all this gratuitous violence? Bah.
But at any rate, they sacrificed animals to cover their sin. God told them to do it, and that's what they did until the time that the Messiah was going to come. Now, they didn't totally understand this. There are lots of prophecies about it. Isaiah 53 being one of the most notable. And please feel free to look that up. It just sounds exactly like what Jesus did. If you know anything about what He did, He was the sacrifice to end all sacrifices. He came into the world as a Jewish man. He laid down His life, and He was punished by the Romans in crucifixion. Why? Well, He was a perfect man. He never did anything wrong. He never sinned. He never did anything that was worthy of crucifixion. However, He did it for us. It was God come into the world for you and me, for everything that we've done wrong, to suffer for that so that we don't have to. And that night that I was praying, I had a vision of how beautiful I looked to God the Father. I was perfect, having been washed by Jesus, without a stain, without imperfection. What I always wanted to look like. And get this, I wasn't a boy. I was me. I was fully a woman and fully accepted. There was no fear. There was nothing undesirable about it. In fact, there was a sense of romance. Like Jesus was bringing me flowers and wooing me to be His. Like He was attracted to who I was. Now, don't get me wrong. This is some kind of warped pagan teaching about having sex with God. It's not that. Okay, don't get me wrong. We don't have a sexual relationship with God. It's all spiritual, but it was wonderful, that vision, and I have never before felt more accepted. Some people would say, you know what, you're crazy. You're just crazy. Well, you know what? If that's crazy, I'll take it. Because the awesome thing is, this vision is based on Bible verses. Okay, this is not unbiblical here. For some of you Christians watching this who think this is weird. Okay, let's look at Song of Solomon 4:7. You are altogether beautiful, my darling, and there is no blemish in you. Or how about Ezekiel? Now this is a little bit longer of a passage. I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm reading parts of it. But this is from Ezekiel 16. Okay, it starts at 8. Then I passed by you and saw you, and I covered your nakedness. I swore to you and entered into a covenant with you so that you became mine, declares the Lord God. Then I bathed you with water, washed off and anointed you with oil. I also clothed you with embroidered cloth and put sandals on your feet, and I wrapped you with fine linen and covered you with silk. I adorned you with ornaments, put bracelets on your hands and a necklace around your neck. Thus you were adorned with gold and silver, and your dress was of fine linen, silk and embroidered cloth. So you were exceedingly beautiful and advanced to royalty. That, if somebody had to explain that vision, and by the way, I hadn't studied that passage. I didn't really know that much about it. I think I'd heard it once. But I wasn't reading that passage when I had this vision from God. God took me to this vision, and then I read this later and thought, wow, this is from God. This is in His Word. This is what He does with us. Now, originally from Ezekiel was a prophet. He was speaking about what God was doing for Israel as a whole, the group of people that He had called out to be holy in the old covenant. But if you go on into the new covenant, what you find out is that God had intended to always extend this love and this adoption of people into His family to the entire world, to all the nations. And when he talked to Abraham in the beginning, when he started things out with Abraham, the man that He chose to start out with, He said, through your seed, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. So God was going to extend this to everyone eventually. He just started with the Jews. And this description, again, Ezekiel the prophet is saying this is of His people Israel. Even Revelation talks about how beautiful the new Jerusalem coming down from heaven, and the dwelling of God will be with man. Once again, like it was in the very beginning in the Garden of Eden. That's what God's doing. He's coming down here again, making everything new and perfect, starting over, and the dwelling of God will be with man. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The love God showed me that night was overwhelming. I was brought to tears, as I had said before, how happy that I am now to be a woman. That's happened many times since then. Many times since then I've been brought to tears. Worshiping God, thankfully rejoicing that He has brought me into who He made me to be, really, like so much more than I was. When I was younger, I didn't understand at all what He made me to be. Didn't understand it at all. Didn't appreciate it. Didn't like it. Didn't want it. Okay, wanted to get rid of it. But ever since God has brought me out of that, and since He has shown me that vision, I've been able to return to that intimacy and worship, and the closeness with God that I feel, the beauty, the just unlike any relationship I've ever had. And I'm in a physical relationship with my husband. That's very nice, okay, but it's only goes so far. With God, there is beauty and there is pleasure, okay, for lack of a better word. Again, not trying to be erotic or sensual or anything. It's not like that kind of pleasure, but it is very good. God said, at my right hand are pleasures forevermore. Right, in His word. He said that. I didn't make that up. God said that. He's not kidding. The pleasure I've experienced in the presence of God is like nothing else. And if you have not experienced that, go to God. Tell Him you want to. I mean, He wants to give that to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. Again, through Christ. Because that's the way to get to the Father. Ever since the vision that I had that night, I have not had the desire in any way, shape, or form, because I still had a little bit of that hanging on through the years after becoming a Christian. I won't say I ever cross-dressed per se, but I did find it very difficult to wear feminine clothing. I was really trying to understate that really a lot. I was very uncomfortable in any kind of feminine things. I did still, my hair was very short for a long time. So at any rate, all of that is gone. It's gone. It was removed that night in that vision. It was completely just taken from me. I didn't have to get rid of it. It was taken from me. And I began embracing my femininity from that day forward wholeheartedly in a way that I could only imagine before. The love story of the gospel is about God loving us so much that He sent His Son Jesus to rescue us, like a knight in shining armor, like a really good story, right? It's the ultimate good story, the good hero story. And so I just want to conclude this video You may not be ready to go where I am with God right now, and that is okay. Hey, just praying, just asking Him, God, I don't know about all this stuff that she's saying. I don't know if you're real. I don't even know if you exist. Show yourself to me. Make yourself known to me, God, because I want to know who you really are. Ask Him. I mean, I've heard stories of all kinds of stories, Muslims and Jews and atheists and everything else, anything and everything. I've watched lots of testimonies of people from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of beliefs. Ask God to, hey, I want to know who you are. Seek Him, and you will find Him. If you seek Him and you don't stop, He'll be found by you. But either way, if you don't want any of this, if you're confused about your gender, may I encourage you to just sit on that thing. If you're really young, if you've got a child with that, to just encourage your child to wait, to sit on the feelings they have. They can talk about them, no problem. Explore it. Why do you feel that way? What about that? I mean, what about that makes you interested in, like, say if somebody sat me down and said, why do you want to dress up like Luke and Han Solo? Why don't you want to be a princess? Why? What is it about that? It doesn't have to be accusatory. It doesn't have to be negative. Just ask them, explore that with questions with your kids. And then not doing anything directly to change anything. And just letting them work those things out, talk about it, and then let them become a teenager, let them grow into that naturally, let them, don't stop their puberty, don't put a pause on anything, let nature take its course, so to speak. And then if they become adults, fully functioning, they've got all their parts, they've got all the things before them to look at, with doctors, to talk with them, to make a fully informed decision as an adult by themselves. They don't have anybody pushing them, pressuring them per se, in school or whatnot, peer pressure, any of that, because that's happening too. Kids are feeling peer pressure. This one girl was saying, I felt pressured that if I was just a girl like I was, and that was not even any good. Wanting to pressure them to feel bad about it. That's not a good thing, whatever they're struggling with. Okay? Without the pressure, letting them explore it, talk to a counselor, whatever. But not pushing them in any particular direction, I think, and allowing them to become an adult with all of their body intact. And then if they would like to still make that decision, then that's up to them, okay? And then they can look at all the material. They can look at people like Scott Nugent and other cases, maybe happier cases that people say it worked out great for me. And here's years of my experience with this, and it's going fabulous. Then they're free to check that out as adults. Okay, make that decision. Now, I personally would disagree with that. And I'm very, very glad that I even had an opportunity to really honestly consider that as an option. But, again, I'm for freedom. We need to have the conversations. We need to talk about these things, because that's what freedom of speech is all about. Be informed. Be informed. And make sure that your kids and your friends are thinking this through. Okay, that they have all the information, and that they have what they need, to go forward. That's the main thing. Again, I'm a Christian. I'm always going to come from that point of view, as would anybody from their particular faith. They're going to come to their opinions and their beliefs, and the way they're going to talk about it and teach about it is going to be from their view, right? And so that's the view I come from as Christian. And the main thing I want is for people to be free. That's my label, so to speak, on my YouTube channel. Set free to set free. That's my goal. And I will tell people that I believe the main way to do that is to be set free in Christ, because Jesus said the truth shall make you free. And He also said that He was the way and the truth and the life. And so, there you go. He sets free those who come to Him. Amen. Thanks for watching.